A lot of people like to relax by drinking chamomile tea. But what is in chamomile tea that makes you feel relaxed and actually even helps you sleep? What's the active element in chamomile tea? Well, the active element is a very interesting compound that actually it has relevance for bodybuilders, athletes, anyone who wants to put in muscle, and it also has a relevance for anybody who wants to live longer. This is a kind of esoteric substance classified as a flavonoid, and it's found in a lot of fruits and vegetables, herbs. It's called Apigenin. Now, I first wrote about Apigenin about 17 years ago in a blog, and what I wrote about was its relationship to testosterone. It turns out that studies show, and I don't recall this might have been what they call in vitro studies, meaning like isolated cell studies. I don't recall, but I remember writing that Apigenin stimulates a certain substance called the star protein, STR, steroidogenic something or other. But basically, what this star does, it transports cholesterol into the testes, where the cholesterol is used as raw material for the synthesis of testosterone. So what I suggested in the article was that increasing your intake of Apigenin from natural foods, again, mainly fruits, vegetables, certain herbs, basil, oranges, grapefruit, parsley being the best source of all. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I suggested in my article that increasing your intake of Apigenin might actually help natural bodybuilders increase their testosterone levels. Apigenin back then was a very little known substance. It still is. Apigenin, however, has gained a little bit more prominence in recent years because it's been mentioned for its sleep promoting effects by certain internet influencers. It's actually already being incorporated in certain supplemental sleep formulas. And Apigenin actually does have a sleep inducing effect. And the reason it does that is because it interacts with certain brain, a particular brain neurotransmitter. It's called GABA aminobutyric acid, or GABA. GABA is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter of the brain, meaning this is the brain neurotransmitter that slows everything down, helps you relax, helps you fall asleep. Most of your pharmaceutical sleeping pills or hypnotics work by interacting with GABA receptors, as do many other substances. But Apigenin is known to, so does taurine, by the way. The amino acid taurine also interacts with GABA receptors, also helps you sleep. But anyway, Apigenin, for that reason, helps you sleep. When they give it to rats, it reduces the movement activity of rats, which is indicative of a sedative effect. Now, what happens if you take Apigenin during the day, if you eat the foods high in Apigenin, or if you take specific Apigenin supplements? Will it put you to sleep? Well, in small doses, Apigenin acts as a minor sedative. In other words, it'll relax you, but it won't put you to sleep. If you take in larger amounts, then it starts to actually help you fall asleep. So the amount, what I'm trying to say is, because Apigenin is found in kind of fairly minute quantities in most foods, if anything, it's only going to have a relaxation effect. It's not going to actually help you fall asleep, but it will help reduce anxiety. That's known as an anxiolytic effect. It shares that with other herbs, certain herbs such as ashwagandha and other substances. So it has it's good if you're under stress, because it'll reduce feelings of anxiety. Also, it reduces again, this is, I think, an isolated cell study. Apigenin has been shown to reduce the production of cortisol by 47.5%. Cortisol is released during stress. It's an adrenal steroid hormone under the direction of ACTH released from the pituitary gland. Cortisol is very important. It's a major anti-inflammatory hormone, but in excess amounts it has negative effects. It stimulates body fat in the central trunk area of the body. It has a tendency to, in the brain, to slowly destroy neurons and create stuff like memory deficits. And of course, the most familiar to bodybuilders is large amounts of cortisol as a catabolic hormone. It causes the release of amino acids from muscle, and in that respect, and it stimulates catabolic pathways in muscle, which leads to muscle protein breakdown. So 47% reduction of cortisol is pretty impressive. Now, what else does Apigenin do? Apigenin might actually help with memory because it increases the production of a substance called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essential. It's also involved in sleep, but it's also involved in the maintenance and repair of neurons or brain cells. So Apigenin can help with that too. Apigenin also has potent, similar to other flavonoids, it has potent antioxidant effects. It'll prevent oxidative reactions in the body that are involved in many diseases and also known to speed the aging process. Again, in common with other flavonoids, Apigenin has anti-inflammatory effects. That's very important because with age, people tend to get increased inflammation. You don't feel it, but it's happening in the body. It's called systemic inflammation, and it's a cornerstone of just about every degenerative disease you could think of, ranging from cardiovascular disease to muscle loss to degenerative brain disease like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. All have a inflammatory. So does cardiovascular disease is primarily an inflammatory disease. So Apigenin will help that by having an anti-inflammatory effect. Studies show that Apigenin also interferes with cell cycle, how do I put this? Cell cycle effects that involve tumor growth and also the spread of tumors or cancer. So in this respect, Apigenin has a anti-cancer effect, and it also, in the brain, it inhibits an enzyme called monoamine oxidase. Monoamine oxidase breaks down catecholamines and dopamine. The dopamine is also a catecholamine. These are the substances that give you drive, make you alert. They affect sex drive, and the original antidepressant drugs worked by inhibiting monoamine oxidase. And if you inhibit monoamine oxidase, you get a greater amount of catecholamine activity in the brain, which means you're more alert, you have clearer thinking, and you certainly will have a definite effect on easing depression. Besides dopamine and epinephrine, Apigenin also boosts serotonin, which is a brain neurotransmitter produced from the amino acid tryptophan. Serotonin also has a relaxation effect. Serotonin is converted into melatonin, which is of course, helps to induce sleep and does a lot of other things. As I said, related to bodybuilding, this is really interesting. Besides, as I mentioned earlier, how Apigenin has been shown to increase STAR, which is a protein that helps transport cholesterol into the testes, where in the Leydig cells portion of the testes, the cholesterol is converted through about 5 enzymatic steps into testosterone. But it does other things. Apigenin does a couple of other things. Apigenin is a very potent natural aromatase inhibitor. What is aromatase? Aromatase is another enzyme. Aromatase converts testosterone and androgens into estrogen. And a lot of bodybuilders, when they take high amounts of certain anabolic steroids that can convert into estrogen, they take anti-aromatase drugs such as Arimidex, which inhibits the aromatase enzyme. But it turns out that Apigenin is a natural aromatase inhibitor. Now, you might say, well, how does it affect estrogen? What about estrogen? It turns out that Apigenin, There's only one type of androgen receptor. Now, there's only one type of receptor that interacts with testosterone, the androgen receptor. Estrogen has at least two receptors, estrogen A and B. Estrogen A is associated with a lot of the bad effects of estrogen, such as stimulation of prostate cancer, breast cancer, uterine cancer. Estrogen receptor B modulates a lot of the bad effects of estrogen receptor A. Now, soy products seem to selectively stimulate estrogen receptor B, which is why a lot of studies have found eating soy helps to prevent prostate cancer. By stimulating estrogen receptor B, Apigenin will modulate a lot of the bad effects of estrogen by overcoming the activation of estrogen receptor A. I know this gets kind of complex, but let's put it simply by saying that Apigenin has beneficial effects on helping control estrogen by acting as a natural anti-aromatase substance, and also by activating estrogen receptor B. Now, let me see. What else can I say? They found that Apigenin is widely distributed in foods. It's found in at least 506 different foods. By the way, Apigenin also stimulates insulin secretion, which will help counter insulin resistance, and also might help prevent diabetes. I mentioned about the cancer, but what about the foods that contain Apigenin? I should point out before I tell you the foods that there are supplements of Apigenin available. Oh, there's one other thing. Glad I just remembered. One of the more recent effects of Apigenin that have been widely publicized is that Apigenin inhibits a protein called CD38. What is CD38? Well, CD38 is a marker for autoimmune diseases like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. It's also a marker for a certain type of leukemia. But what CD38 does in relation to longevity is that it breaks down a substance called NAD. NAD, again, was formerly only known to molecular biologists, but it became prominent because certain, again, influences have pushed products, supplements that are known to increase NAD. NAD is found in every cell. It's extremely important. It helps protect DNA. With age, levels of NAD tend to decrease. So some of these influence have lead people to believe that taking certain supplements, such as NMN and NR, which are precursors for NAD synthesis, will actually help extend life. There's no actual proof of that. But where Apigenin comes in is, as I said, CD38 is a protein that breaks down NAD. In fact, the reason why people have less NAD in their bodies as they age is because CD38 tends to become more active as you get older. Now, by eating Apigenin, you can actually blunt the effects of CD38. So what this means is that eating foods that contain Apigenin alone, even if you don't take NMN or NR, will probably increase your levels of NAD. Now, there's another thing I should add about this, is that something that's almost always left out by people who promote NAD boosters like NMN and NR is the fact that exercise is a very potent stimulant of NAD through a different pathway. So if you exercise regularly, you probably won't even have a drop in NAD with age. It's still a good idea to try and curtail the effects of CD38 by consuming Apigenin-containing foods, but they don't tell people that exercise alone. When they say that NAD drops precipitously after age 40, which is true, they're referring to sedentary people who don't do any exercise. If you exercise alone can maintain NAD levels. So if you exercise and you eat foods containing Apigenin to control CD38, you don't need to spend money on expensive so-called NAD boosters such as NR and NMN. These are very expensive, and the people that sell these supplements will never tell you what I just told you about exercise. They do mention Apigenin occasionally because they often sell Apigenin supplements. Now, what are the foods that contain Apigenin? The highest, the richest source of Apigenin by far is parsley. Parsley provides 250 milligrams of Apigenin per 100 grams. That's a pretty decent amount. How much Apigenin you need to take to actually have a significant effect on inhibiting CD38, I'm not really sure of that. It's probably in the gram amount, probably over 1,000 milligrams. So you'd have to eat a hell of a lot of parsley. 100 grams, I believe, is, if I remember correctly, is 3 ounces. So, you'd have to eat like a pound of parsley or more than that, which is unrealistic. Few people are going to do that. So what they do, they sell dried parsley supplements. Now people are buying this because they can't, very few people could tolerate eating 2 pounds of parsley a day. So the dried parsley is a concentrated source. I have never tried it, but from what I understand, it is absolutely horrible tasting. Horrible tasting. I wouldn't even try it. I mean, it's like, it's vomit material. So forget about it. But if you eat just parsley, at least you'll be getting some natural Apigenin, maybe enough to help at least slightly curtail CD38 and automatically increase your NAD levels. Chamomile tea is a second best source of Apigenin, or chamomile itself, or chamomile tea. Again, the amount of Apigenin in chamomile tea depends on how it's brewed and other factors. But chamomile, that's the reason why chamomile is often used to help relax you, help you sleep. Celery is a fairly decent source, not a huge amount. It has 21 milligrams per 100 grams of Apigenin. Oranges and orange juice contain small amounts of Apigenin, only about 2 to 3 milligrams per 100 grams. Onions contain Apigenin, both yellow and red. The amount of Apigenin ranges from 6 to 30 milligrams per 100 grams. Spinach contains about 1 to 2 milligrams. I wouldn't call that a great source. Thyme, the herb thyme, contains Apigenin, 16 milligrams per 100 grams. Cilantro contains 4 milligrams per 100 grams. So as you can see, Apigenin is found mainly in plant foods. So there is, as I said, Apigenin supplements. They vary. There's one that I was using. It was a what do they call that? God, I can't remember. Anyway, I was using an Apigenin supplement. It contained something like 500 milligrams of Apigenin per capsule, and I was only using it. I only use it before I go to sleep because Apigenin does have a sedative effect. I found that when I took in concentrated Apigenin supplements, especially at that dose of 500 milligrams during the day, it tended to make me sleepy, like I needed to take a nap. And I don't need that during the day. I don't want that. I want to have clear thinking, less brain fog, better focus. So I save Apigenin only before sleep. If you're going to consider using Apigenin supplements, that's the best way I would suggest using it. Taking it at night before you go to sleep so you don't get a sedative effect during the day. So I think that's about it for Apigenin. Very interesting compound. And by the way, Apigenin is very safe. I wasn't able to find any serious side effects associated with it. Again, eat those. Try and eat some of those foods that I just mentioned. And of course, exercise, both weight training, resistance exercise, and aerobic exercise. Both of them will activate the pathway that maintains NAD in the body. And as long as you exercise, your NAD, you don't need to take these expensive supplements, which are based on niacin, and also if you take the NAD boosters, you have to take a methyl donor supplement because niacin in large amounts uses up methyl donors. These are certain substances in the body that are involved in a lot of reactions, including interacting with genes, turning on and off genes. So if you're going to take NMN or NR, you have to take another supplement such as TMG, which is also betaine, which is a methyl donor, a form of B12 called, what's it called? Methylcobalamin is also a methyl donor. Folic acid, a B complex vitamin, is a methyl donor. Choline is a methyl donor. All these things you have to ensure in your diet if you're going to take something like NR or NMN. Otherwise, you can get in trouble. So that's about it. If you want more information on nutrition, exercise science, anti-aging research, hormone therapy, ergogenic aids, supplement science, which supplements work, which ones don't, women's health and fitness, all of these topics are covered in my Applied Metabolics. It's www.appliedmetabolics.com. It's 30 to 45 pages every month, no ads, pure information, also based on my over 60 years of constant study and experience, which I don't think can be matched by any other digital publication. So it's at www.appliedmetabolics.com. When you subscribe, send me an email. I'll send you an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, where each day I post new data or studies on nutrition, exercise science, and general health. I have an email portal on my Applied Metabolics web page where current subscribers only could send me short questions about anything they might have read in Applied Metabolics or anything pertaining to nutrition, exercise, and I will answer them as an appreciation of their subscription to Applied Metabolics. So this obviously applies only to current subscribers. So I think that's about it. If you want to have the best friend you'll ever have, go to your local shelter, adopt a dog. They are the best.